In the last lesson, we looked at how we could allow users in reporting services reports to select ranges of dates by specifying a begin date and an end date, and having the report include all the dates in the middle. This is a little complicated with MDX because MDX doesn't use the greater than equal than operators against dimension members. We have to take what the user wants to do, which is taking all the dates greater than or equal to the begin, less than or equal to the end, and translate that somehow into sets of dimension members. We did that using MDX and parameters and structured what the users wanted into the right MDX to get it done. Let's take that the next step, and let's say with our airline flight database we want to look at all the flights from a certain day and time through a certain day and time. But our date and time dimensions are probably separate. They're not combined, and therefore we can't really have a range of daytime to date time. So we do need to deal with both of those dimensions. In order to deal with this problem, we're going to break it down, because if you think about it, a date range that begins on one day and ends on a completely different day is really three sets of things. First, it's the set of all of the hours between the begin hour and the end of the day of the first day, and that's going to be less than 24 hours typically. That might be from 1 o'clock until the end of the day, so that's going to give us 11 hours. And then in the middle we have all of these other dates that all have 24 hours, so we know that's going to be pretty easy to select all of those. And at the end we have a subset, beginning at midnight until whenever the ending hour is. So if the ending hour is 2 in the afternoon, then we have from midnight through the 14th hour of the day. If we were able to select each of these three things individually and then use the MDX union operator, we could create that one big set of date and time cross-joined together. So that's the approach we're going to take to solve this date and time range selection. Here's the query that we'll use for this, and it looks a little intimidating, but it's really very similar to the query that we had before. So we are selecting our measures on columns as before, and then below we see these two union functions are actually unioning three different sets together. The first set's the easy one. We're cross-joining the date and the hour together to generate essentially one row per hour for all of these days. So if we had 2 days and we cross-join with 24 hours, we would wind up with 48 rows in the set. Notice that we're using next member and prev member in this so that we're not including the first day the user is picking, and we're not including the last day either, just those dates that are in the middle of the diagram from the previous slide, and we'll get a full 24 hours per day for all of those dates. Then the next set is doing the same cross join of the date and the hour, and the beginning date in this query is January 7th, and we'll get all the hours from the beginning time the user wants, which is 13, through the ending hour of the day, which is 23. And then the final and third set is generating all of the hours from the beginning of the day through, in this example, 10 o'clock. The unions will glue all these things together, and we'll wind up with those three sets as one, and we'll have all of the hours the user's looking for in one set that now we can populate with all of the measures and return onto the report. So let's turn next to run that query and see what that looks like, and then we'll put it into a report. So here we are in Management Studio, so let's take just a quick look at this query before we move it into the report. And it is just these two unions, which takes the three sets and glues them together. The one element that is added up here that I didn't mention before is I need a way to sort these rows once they're combined together, because they won't naturally come out in date order anymore since I did the unions. So I added this column at the end just so that I would have something that I could use in reporting services to sort properly. This dimension member key is formatted in a way that it will sort it back in the right order. In reporting services, we have our report as we did before. If we look at our data set, our query looks just like it did on the slide, except that the hard-coded members have been replaced with parameter values. So now we have the begin date and the end date, but we also have begin hour, end hour, and so on. So those are all going to be brought in and assign by parameter as with the last report. In addition to the begin date and end date, which are the same as in the last lesson, we have begin hour and end hour, which are going to look like this. So we have hour flight hour 8, so that's the 8th hour of the day. Let's go ahead and run that report. And now we can see our output. Now let's change the range of dates that we have data for, because we don't actually have data for 2012 in this database. So we'll choose something in 2011. We'll begin at 8 o'clock, and we'll run that through maybe August. View report. And that gives us our aggregate data from 2/21 at 8 in the morning. We want to just test and make sure this begin hour works. Let's change that to start at 4 in the afternoon and refresh the report. Now we can see that our report is beginning at 4 in the afternoon rather than 8 in the morning. So we can see that our begin date and hour, end date and hour are working correctly.